Hi, folks. Alex from SeemsGoodMagic.com here, and what have we got here? Brand new spoilers. Yes, the new set coming out, Eldritch Moon. Now, what do we know about this set? Well, something exciting to start her off. Em Urkel's coming back. That's right. We've got a brand new Em Urkel. It's got to be tough to beat the old Em Urkel. So this Em Urkel has a lot to live up to. But since there's only about, well, I don't know, how many spoilers are there at this time? There's about 30 or so spoilers. I'm going to try and work my way through all of them alongside you all. And feel free to leave your comments. I'm sure I'm going to miss some practical elements of some of these cards, but these are my first impressions of these cards. So there's all sorts of new mechanics we can go over and stuff like that. So let's do this. We've got Gisela the Broken Blade. So Gisela the Broken Blade is 2/2 white mythic, 4/3 flying first strike lifelink, already amazing. At the beginning of your instep, if you both own and control Gisela the Broken Blade and a creature named Bruna the Fading Light, exile them, then meld them into Brizella Voice of Nightmare. So this meld mechanic is sort of a new take on transforming, a new way to transform creatures. Maybe other permanents too, we don't know yet. But in fact, no, we do know. We'll get to that. We already have one spoiler where it's a land melding and turning into a creature, so we'll get to that. But so Gisela the Broken Blade, 4 mana, 4/3. Bruna the Fading Light, the other side, or the thing that Gisela melds with, is a 7 mana, 5/7 Angel Horror. They're both Angel Horrors. And when you cast Bruna the Fading Light, you may return target angel or human creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it has flying and vigilance. So pretty amazing. 7 mana, 5/7 flying, vigilance, meld, cast it, resurrection effect on it. And Gisela's just horribly efficient, right? 4 mana, 4/3 flying, first strike, lifelink. But what does it turn into? Isn't that the ultimate question? Brizella Voice of Nightmares is an Eldrazi Angel. That's flying, first strike, vigilance, lifelink. Insane. It's got a mixture of all of the abilities of both cards. And your opponents can't cast spells with converted mana cost 3 or less. Now, as we all know, for Constructed, and a lot of times, well, certainly a lot in Limited as well, a lot of time, well, more so in Constructed, most of your deck is going to be 3 mana or less, right? I mean, you really want to make sure that you're casting spells early in Constructed games. So yes, Brizella Voice of Nightmares is also very insane. Yeah, very exciting. I can't imagine this card. Well, first and foremost, I'm going to be speaking mostly from a Limited perspective. So yes, these cards are all insane and Limited, including the 7-drop Bruna, the Fading Light. 7 mana, 5/7 flying vigilance with the resurrection effect. Regardless of the resurrection effect, 7 mana, 5/7 flying vigilance. Flying vigilance is just such a good mashup on a 5/7 body that, yes, Bruna is absolutely worth first picking. Gisela clearly is worth first picking. Isn't the problem you're never going to be able to meld these in Limited, though? I mean, what are the chances you're going to get both Gisela and Bruna? That seems pretty unlikely, unless I'm missing something. Maybe I'm missing the whole idea of this, but I assume it's going to be tough to get both a mythic and a rare, right? And then having them both out at the same time and then having it turn into Brizella. So Brizella Voice of Nightmares seems like it's going to be difficult to transform into. But I would say from a Constructed standpoint, Gisela is certainly playable on her own. 4 mana, 4/3 flying, first strike, lifelink is very good. That's a great ability mashup. So yes, the 3 toughness might, depending on the burn spells we see, might not be good enough. But as of right now, yes, I'm very impressed with that card. That's very good. It's like a little mini Baneslayer Angel, which you can see the Mythic spoiler, the Saurus, is also compared to that. All right, we've taken too much time already on this card. Let's move on. Dosent of Perfection. So we have a 5 mana, 3/2 blue, 5/4 insect horror creature with flying. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a 1/1 blue human wizard creature token on the battlefield. Then if you control 3 or more wizards, you get to transform Dosent of Perfection. So it turns into Final Iteration, a 6/5 Eldrazi insect with flying wizards you control get +2/+1 and have flying, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a 1/1 blue human wizard creature token on the battlefield. This card is fantastic. I love this card. Gonna be extremely good and limited. Even if it was just a 5-mana 5/4 flyer, be highly playable. The fact that it's got all sorts of upside makes this a bomb rare and limited. Could it see constructed play? It's always tough to measure on the 5-drops. My gut immediately says no. I feel like you need something with more impact at 5 mana, immediate impact in constructed. And limited, yes, this is going to be a bomb. Moving on. Em Urkel. All right, let's do it. Em Urkel, the Promised Inn. So we have a 13 mana, 13/13. And it costs 1 less to cast for each card type among cards in your graveyard. So kind of the Delirium style effect, right? And then, so basically for each card type, which like Delirium, with Delirium you get an effect. With this, it's just cost 1 less for each card type. And remember, card types are going to be like creatures, artifacts, stuff like that. Instant, sorcery, you got it, Planeswalker. When you cast Em Urkel, you gain control of target opponent during that player's next turn. After that turn, that player takes an extra turn, and then it's got flying, trample, protection from instants. Yeah, this card's good. First and foremost, I'm just going to say right off the bat, not as good as the original Em Urkel. It's really difficult to beat a Annihilator, whatever, what was he, Annihilator 6. Annihilator is just got to be the most powerful mechanic they've ever designed, and for good reason. They could only stick it on big, expensive things. It's a very, very powerful mechanic. Whenever they attack, they have to sacrifice that. Your defending player has to sacrifice that many permanents. Just insanely good. Or is it exile permanents? I don't even remember now. I want to say sacrifice, but it might actually be exile. It kind of would make a little more flavorful sense that way. We can click on Em Urkel real quick and find out. Probably, maybe not. Whatever. So yes, the new Em Urkel. Maybe people see something more than I do with it. I mean, it's 13 mana, 13/13 flying trample pro instant. Yeah, that's insane. And you get to control an opponent's. And I guess it could potentially cost you like 8 mana, right? So you could end up paying 8 mana for a 13/13. Or maybe there's more than. I don't even know how many card types total there are, but it's probably 6 to 8, right? So maybe you could even end up, if you play your cards right, literally and figuratively, you could end up with like a 7 mana Em Urkel or something, which would be insane. But you get to gain control of target opponent during that player's next turn. Is that new wording? You control target player's next turn. Now the new wording is gain control of target opponent during that player's next turn. So you can, as the rules say, you can tell that player to give you all of their real-life money. You can make them give you their magic collection. No, I joke, folks. Of course you can't do that. I assume it's the same as Mindslaver. Are they changing things? Maybe. I haven't looked into it that much. But yes, this is definitely a powerful Em Urkel, but it's still going to be tough for me. I mean, with old Em Urkel, take an extra turn, Annihilator 6, pro-colored spells, which is clearly better than pro-instants. And I guess I just realized this Em Urkel is rezzable too, which is definitely an advantage. But you have to cast it to get the gain control effect. So I guess still rezzing at 13/13 flying trample pro instant is pretty good. But I guess you'd probably still rather have I can't remember the demon's name, but the 7/7 flying lifelink one, pay 7 life, draw 7 cards. Probably still the go-to res target. But final impressions on Em Urkel, probably not. Well, I wanted to say probably not limited playable, but that's not true. It totally is limited playable with its cost 1 less to cast for each card type among cards in your graveyard. So yes, I think there is actually a very good chance this will both see limited and constructed play. So keep that in mind, and people can certainly let me know their impressions on that card. All right, next we have Wretched Griff, a 7 mana 3/4 with Emerge, a brand new mechanic. You may cast a spell by sacrificing a creature and paying the Emerge cost, reduced by that creature's converted mana cost. And when you cast Wretched Griff, draw cards. and it's got flying. So let's read that again, because I'm not sure I fully comprehended. You may cast a spell by sacrificing a creature and paying the emerge cost reduced by that creature's converted mana cost. Okay, now it makes perfect sense. So its emerge cost is 5 and a blue. Say you sacrifice a 4 and a blue creature, you only have to pay 1 colorless mana to cast Wretched Griff. Okay, I'm interested. It's certainly a cool mechanic. Yeah, I'm interested in it. I think it's going to be a limited mechanic. Maybe if there's some die effects, Emerge could see some constructed play as well. But for now, I'm liking it. This card seems fine for limited. And a 7-mana 3/4 flying draw card, not so good, but sacrificing a creature that you don't care about anymore to get a 3/4 flyer that draws you a card, yes, I could see this actually seeing some play in limited for sure. Okay, next we have an exciting one. Ulrich of the Krallen Hordes is 3 red and a green for 4/4 human werewolf legend. Whenever this creature enters the battlefield, it transforms into Ulrich of the Krallen Horde. Target creature gets +4/+4. And then if it's got the werewolf thing, if no players cast a spell, flip him. And then when he flips, you may have it fight target non-werewolf creature you don't control. And it's a 6/6. So every time it flips back into Ulrich, pumps something to a 4/4, and whenever it flips into Ulrich, uncontested alpha turns into a 6/6. So this is going to be an absolute bomb limited card. Will it see constructed play? I don't know. I think red and green fight effects could definitely have constructed playability. Didn't Domri have some style of fight on it? I believe it did. I never really played Domri, but I'm pretty sure that it did. Like that was its minus ability or something like that. But yes, I think fighting can make its way into constructed. Will this necessarily? This one could make into constructed, but I do not think it will have anywhere near the amount of impact that Huntmaster of the Fells has still to this day in constructed. So a little bit less than Huntmaster of the Fells, unfortunately, but still a bomb limited card. All right, moving on, we have Sanctifier of Souls. A 4-mana, 2/3 human cleric. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And then 2 and a white, exile a creature card from your graveyard, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So this card is cool. I like this a lot. This is going to see a lot of limited play. Exiling creature cards to get spirits is just a very powerful limited effect. And then the fact that it synergizes well with itself, using that ability at instant speed to pump itself out of nowhere. Yes, I absolutely think this card will see limited play, not likely to make constructed play. Next, we have Niblis of Frost, 2 and 2 blue, 3/3 flying prowess creature. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, tap target creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Once again, super bomb limited card. It's got a very synergistic set of abilities again, right? Because it's evasive, it gets bigger when you cast non-creature spells, and then specifically instants or sorceries, you get to tap down a creature until that creature's next untap step, or the player's next turn. No, that's not right either. Creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Perfect. Works with prowess as well, right? So you cast an instant, tap something down, it gets bigger, it attacks inevasively. Yes, this card will end games in limited. Once again, do not think it will make its way into constructed. Likely not. Okay, next we have Noose Graph Mob. 4 and 2 black for a rare zombie creature. It enters the battlefield with 5 +1/+1 counters on it. Whenever a player casts a spell, remove a +1/+1 counter from it, and if you do, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. This card's cool. It'll definitely see limited play. Way too expensive and not quite high enough impact to see constructed play. But still, a cool card nonetheless. I like it. It gets smaller, but you see all these noosed up zombies, and as they're casting spells, you see zombies are escaping from the noose. Very cool. 6 mana, 5/5, a little bit underwhelming at rare, but I like that it's turning into a bunch of 2/2s. Cool card. I like it. It's designed flavorfully. Next, we have Assembled Alphas. Okay, 5 and a red for a 5/5 wolf creature. That's a rare. Whenever it blocks or becomes blocked by a creature, Assembled Alphas deals 3 damage to that creature and 3 damage to that creature's controller. Wow, that's a strong card. Going to see a lot of limited play. Super strong and limited. We've already seen this effect with Kessig Forge Master in Shadows over Innistrad, and we saw it way back in original Innistrad with Ashmouth Hound. So this is like the granddaddy of them all, right? Because it's more damage than either of those do at 3 damage, and it deals damage to that creature's controller. So it's basically got like a little Searing Blaze with landfall every time it's blocked or becomes blocked. So super cool card for limited there. All right, next we have Ulvenwald Observer. 4 and 2 green for a 6/6 rare tree folk creature. Whenever a creature you control with toughness 4 or greater dies, draw a card. Awesome card. Going to be very good and limited. Once again, not going to see a lick of constructed play, I would say. But I like that it's a 6 mana 6/6 that at the very least draws a card when it dies. But the fact that it works with other cards you have, very good. I like it. I certainly could see it being a first pick. Although you do need to sort of, I guess, to a certain extent, design a little bit around it if you want to get more than just it self-dying worth of value. All right, we already talked about Bruna. Next, we have this card that has only been identified in another language, but we have the translation here. Supplanter of Identity. 2 and 2 blue Shapeshifter. Whenever Supplanter of Identity attacks, you may exile another target non-token creature. If you do, Supplanter of Identity becomes a copy of that creature until the end of the next turn, or the end of the turn. Return the exiled creature to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So this is a clone effect that exiles it and then returns it. So it's going to work really well with enter the battlefield effects. But other than that, I mean, I like the shapeshifters that can change. Those are, this one, I mean, it's definitely better than, I also like, it specifically says exile another target non-token creature. So keep in mind, you can't use this as like a removal spell upon attacking. So you can't just deal with tokens with it. I do like that you don't have to have a creature out for it to clone right away. A problem with it is you don't get to clone it right away. So there's pros and cons to that. A pro being you can cast it when there's no other creature on the board, although you're just getting a 0/3. A con being you have to wait till you attack before you can even copy anything. And then even when you're copying it, it's going to be tapped because it's attacking. So I'm a little bit on the fence on this one. I definitely, it's going to see a lot of limited play. I think it's just fine for limited. But constructed, I think too slow and a little bit too narrow to really get there. But I've been wrong before, folks. All right, next we have Cemetery Recruitment. 1 and a black sorcery at common. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand if it's a zombie card. Draw a card. I like these zombie res effects that... That's weird under the Thesaurus. They don't have, I don't remember, I was hoping it would be here. There was a card from Innistrad, and I'm sure commenters know which one I'm talking about, but it lets you return 2 zombie cards from your graveyard to your hand, or just 1 regular non-zombie creature. But Cemetery Recruitment seems like a very good card if you have a pretty well, a good zombie-themed deck. Otherwise, it's basically just a more expensive Raised Dead, which isn't that great. Or a Disentomb. Okay, next we have Hanweir Garrison. So we remember the Hanweir tribe from original Innistrad. Hanweir Garrison, and also from Shadows over Innistrad as well. 2 and a red, 2/3. Whenever Hanweir Garrison attacks, put 2 1/1 red human creature tokens on the battlefield tapped and attacking. Very cool. It melds with Hanweir Battlements. So we can click on Hanweir Battlements. Hanweir Battlements is a rare land that taps for a colorless, or pay a red and tap, target creature gains haste, or 3 and 2 red if you both own and control Hanweir Battlements and a creature named Hanweir Garrison. Exile them, then meld them into Hanweir the Writhing Township. So on the back, we've got this Hanweir the Writhing Township. A 7/4 trample hasty Eldrazi ooze creature, and whenever it attacks, put 2/3/2 colorless Eldrazi horror creature tokens on the battlefield tapped and attacking. So once again, you have to have 2 rares if you want to be able to meld it into this Hanweir the Writhing Township. They sure aren't making it easy for you, I'll say that. They are making it difficult. Unless, once again, am I missing something? Maybe, I don't think I am though, right? You've got to have both of these cards. So you have to get 2 rares in order to meld it into this? It seems like that's the case. But Hanweir the Writhing Township, a 7/4 trample hasty thing that puts 2/3/2. I mean, this thing attacks for 13 damage, 7 of which is trampling. That's insane. And Hanweir Garrison attacks for 4, split among 3 bodies. So these cards are very good. In fact, Hanweir Battlements is certainly the most unexciting aspect of this card. It's just a rare land that gives a creature haste, which isn't bad, but I would say worse than Hanweir Garrison by quite a bit. All of these, I mean, hyper playable in Limited, absolutely. I could actually, in fact, I could certainly see Hanweir Garrison absolutely seeing constructed play. Since it's 3 mana, it's a 2/3, it puts 2 dudes out. If you have any sort of, mass creature buff effects, I could definitely see Hanweir Garrison breaking through to constructed play. Absolutely. If you have some, group buff spells, seems very good. Okay, moving on. Oh, go back a couple here. Okay. Influence of Em Urkel, 2/2 green or uncommon enchantment. Every time you cast wouldn't it be an Eldrazi creature spell? With converted mana cost higher than or equal to 7, draw 2 cards. Okay, pretty narrow. I don't think this is going to see either limited or constructed play, to be honest, just because you're paying 4 mana for an enchantment that doesn't impact the board, and on top of that, you have to have Eldrazi creatures with converted mana cost higher than or equal to 7, which is clearly not on all Eldrazi, that from what we saw in Oath of the Gatewatch and Battle for Zendikar, correct? So, no, not a very good card. Will not see limited or constructed play, is my assumption. Okay, next we have Talia, Heretic Cathar. I remember Talia from way back in Dark Ascension. Now she is 2 and a white for a legendary human soldier creature with first strike. Creatures and non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. She's a 3/2. I like this card a lot. With non-basic, I think the sort of hidden gem on this one is the non-basic lands your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. That's going to be devastating against control decks, I think. 3 and 4 color control decks. It also works against fetches and stuff like that. So very cool card. It'll certainly see constructed or limited play, and I feel fairly confident in saying it will at least see some sideboard constructed play. Maybe not though. It is just a 3 mana 3/2 first strike, which isn't insane. Thalia was 2 mana and had, I feel like, a higher impact ability. So this is worse than the original Thalia. Oh, that's kind of cool. Which was 2 mana 2/1 first strike. Non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. Really excellent staple of White Weenie. This one, also definitely a very good White Weenie card, but at 3 mana, that extra mana is a world of difference when it comes to White Weenie. Next we have Coax from the Blind Eternities. 2 and a blue. You may choose an Eldrazi card you own from outside the game or in exile, reveal that card and put it into your hand. I guess, it's usually tutor effects are at least build around, right? I don't think this is going to see a lot of limited play because you have to have an Eldrazi worth searching up, and you probably want a couple, right? Otherwise, if you already have the Eldrazi, this is just a dead card. But constructed play, possibly. If you have ways to cheat out Eldrazi, maybe as like a one of tutor effect. I'm not really sure. Like I said, always keep your eye on tutor effects because they can certainly, and the fact that it's in blue instead of black, I think is relevant. Next we have Midnight Scavengers. Okay, so this is a 4 and a black 3/3 human rogue. When it enters the battlefield, you may return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to your hand. It melds with a card called Graph Rats, and they turn into Chittering Host, which is a 5/6 hasty menace Eldrazi horror creature. When Chittering Host enters the battlefield, other creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain menace until end turn. So super high impact there. When it enters the battlefield, so I was completely wrong, I guess, about it transforming. So meld means you exile them both, I guess? Or let me find Graph Rats. Meld is, yes, okay, so you exile them, then meld them into Chittering Host. So so now I think I understand what's going on. I'm sure there's already 100 comments explaining this. So what I think is there's going to probably be, well, I'm not sure. I'm assuming token cards, but there could also just be like what they did with, no, I guess not. I'm assuming now it's just token cards, because I wouldn't think these would be on the back, but maybe it's on the back of both. Okay, maybe I don't know yet. I'm sure this is still literature that I could have read up on and didn't, but hey, I'm just here to read the new cards, not completely understand how it's going to work. I mean, we do understand how it's going to work. They enter just by the wording on this, I know that it enters the battlefield, so it's not something transforming into something. It's cards that are leaving, exiling, and then coming in as something else. So that is relevant. Graph Rats are 1 and a black, 2/1 rat creatures. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you both own and control Graph Rats and a creature named Midnight Scavengers, exile them. So this is just basically a black Goblin Piker. But the other one is a 5-mana 3/3. Worse than Gravedigger, since you can only get 3. Is it 3 power, or was it convert mana cost 3 or less? It's convert mana cost 3 or less. So a couple kind of underwhelming commons that turn into a very, very powerful colorless common. But so Graph Rats and Midnight Scavengers absolutely seems like something that you're going to see melded quite a bit and limited, which makes them much more playable than their text would lead you to believe. Next we have Galvanic Bombardment. 1 red instant. It deals X damage to target creature, where X is 2 plus the number of cards named Galvanic Bombardment in your graveyard. Okay, cool. So we've seen that this is kind of an old school effect, as we can see from Thesaurus. We have Kindle and Flame Burst. This is the new version of it. So deals X damage to target creature, where X is, except it can't deal it to players. That's already a difference. Kindle and Flame Burst could both deal to players. This cannot. Creatures only. This is still going to see tons of limited play, especially considering in limited you can play more than 4 of a certain type of card. So yes, if you end up with like 5 or 6 Galvanic Bombardments, not that that's going to happen very often, but you're going to be a happy camper as you're able to eventually Lightning Axe your opponent's creatures, all at the mere cost of 1 mana and no discard. Very cool card. Very good for limited. Could definitely see constructed play, but not likely, since it can't hit players' faces. So it would have to be some sort of controlled X 1-drop. Gnarlwood Dryad. Okay, so we have a 1 green, 1/1 Dryad horror creature with Death Touch. It's an uncommon. It has Delirium. Gnarlwood Dryad gets +2/+2 as long as there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard. This card's good. 1 mana, 1/1 Death Touch. Already super limited playable. And then the fact that it even gets bigger and rewards you for Delirium. Yes, I could easily see this seeing quite a bit. It's definitely going to see a lot of limited play. Not likely to see constructed play, but that's okay. 1 mana, 1/1 Death Touchers, in green especially, since green does have Death Touch often, but I think you see it mostly in black, so it's good to see the green Death Touch. Next we have Thalia's Lancers. 3 and 2 white for a 4/4 first striker. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for a legendary card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. This is a cool card. Once again, I like tutor effects. This can only find legends, but for that reason, it might, I was going to say it might have a chance to make constructed, but not likely. And in limited, it's more often or not just going to be a 5 mana 4/4 first strike. But still, it's got potential upside, and maybe this set will have a ton of legends, which will make it a lot more playable than it already is. But like I said, in limited, certainly playable, but probably more often just going to be a 5 mana 4/4 first strike. Okay, next we have Grizzled Angler. This is 2 and a blue for a 2/3 human creature. It taps. It's an uncommon. It taps for put the top 2 cards of your library into your graveyard. Then if there is a colorless creature card in your graveyard, transform it, and it turns into a Grizzled Angler fish, which is a 4/5 Eldrazi fish creature. Creatures your opponents control attack this turn if able. This card's cool. I like the blue effect where it forces your opponent's creatures to attack. We've seen that in the past. Biden of Thassa, for example. And Self-Mill is going to reward you if you have some Delirium-style effects in your deck. So yes, Grizzled Angler certainly seems like a highly playable and fun limited card. I sincerely doubt we're going to see any of this seeing play in Constructed, but if you have enough colorless rewards for it, I mean, it's colorless creature card, remember, so it's not like lands are going to trigger it. That would be insane. So it'd be pretty tough build around in Constructed. And the payoff just getting a 4/5, which isn't bad, but probably not enough at 3 mana, 2/3. Okay, next we have Lone Rider. 1 and a white for a 1/1 first strike lifelink, human knight, uncommon creature. At the beginning of the end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, transform it, and it transforms into it that rides as 1, 4/4, first strike trample lifelink, Eldrazi horror creature. That's a good ability mashup. First strike trample lifelink is an excellent ability mashup. 2 mana, 1/1 first strike lifelink. Not so bad, especially if you have any sort of buff effects, which we already know. There's like Strength of Arms and stuff like that in Shadows over Innistrad. So yes, I like this card. I forgot the new draft structure. I thought the 2 blocks are still to be drafted together, right? And then they turn into 2 new sets. It's like every 3 months there's a new block or a new set in a block that comes out. Block structures are 2 sets in 1 block, and those are drafted together. I believe I'm correct on that. I'm assuming I am. So yes, Lone Rider seems like a good uncommon. I don't think it's like a slam first pick, but yeah, if you have any sort of buff effect, you can gain 3 life just by itself, and then it transforms into a 4/4 first strike trample lifelink. So maybe it is. Maybe it is just a slam first pick. That's a good transform effect. So yes, this card is very cool. Certainly going to see limited play. Constructed play, probably not. Once again, possible though. If you have the right build-around deck with a bunch of buff effects, it certainly could. Or other lifelinkers that are 3 power or greater. Okay, next we have Unsubstantiate. 1 and a blue, instant, return target spell or creature to its owner's hand. Now this is a really cool card. So return target spell means while the spell's on the stack, you can bounce it. So it's kind of like a remand style effect, but it can also bounce a creature. So yes, I think this card will see a lot of limited play, and this absolutely seems like a card that is a candidate to see quite a bit of constructed play. Unlike Remand, you don't get to draw a card off of it, which makes it less good. But against decks that have expensive spells, I think it might be just versatile enough to definitely see some constructed play. We'll see though if I can substantiate that claim. Okay, next we have Borrowed Malevolence. 1 black for a common instant creature with Escalate, which is a brand new mechanic. Escalate 2. Pay this cost for each mode chosen beyond the first. So we have choose one or both. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn, or target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Slight criticism of Escalate. Doesn't it seem like it's just, Entwine? Am I missing something here? I guess the difference is Entwine only had 2 different and here you can even see on the top comment over here, I assume there will be cards with more than 2 modes. Otherwise, Escalate would functionally be identical to Entwine, wouldn't it? And there has already been a card spoiled with more than 1 or more than 2 modes on it. So yes, it is essentially Entwine that lets you do it to more than 2 modes, which is a little bit of a cop-out mechanic. I will say that right off the bat, but still, that's fine. They wanted to make basically a better Entwine. Okay, I'm on board with that. So Borrowed Malevolence. This card's not terribly exciting. 3 mana for target creature gets +1/+1. Target creature gets -1/-1. What I like about this, it's certainly restricted to limited only. You could technically get a really solid 2-for-1 out of this in certain combat situations. For that reason, yes, I do think this will see quite a bit of limited play. Next we have Blessed Alliance. 1 and a white, instant with Escalate, and here's one that's got 3 modes. So the Escalate cost is 2 once again. Target player gains 4 life, untap up to 2 target creatures, target opponent sacrifices an attacking creature. So right off the bat we see this is strictly better than Immolating Glare from core set, the last core set. This card seems amazing, certainly worthy of first pick in limited, and a draft, I should say. And this could definitely even see constructed play. I think for 4 mana, gain 4, target opponent sacks an attacking creature. Oh, never mind. Take it back, take it back. Not strictly better than Immolating Glare. Strictly better would be target creature, destroy target attacking creature. This, they have the choice to sacrifice an attacking creature. So no, not strictly better than Immolating Glare. I redact my statement. Still, a very powerful card. Not as powerful as I thought, but sometimes sacrifice an attacking creature can be good, since this can actually deal with hexproof, which is relevant. But will it see constructed play? The fact that it's not targeted creature specifically makes me say less likely. But for 4 mana, gain 4, target opponent sacks an attacking creature, probably not. But this is going to see a lot of limited play, and it's still a very powerful card, definitely. I mean, very versatile, and you get a ton of effects for 6 mana. So I like that card a lot. Very cool. Chilling Grasp. 2 and a blue, tap up to 2 target creatures. Those creatures don't untap during their control's next untap step. Okay, pretty good. And it's got Madness for 4 mana. So, like Broken Concentration, I believe it's the only example, hope I don't eat those words, of the Madness cost being more expensive than the actual casting cost. But still, a very cool card with any sort of the looter effects or discard effects, of course, because of Madness. So, yes, this will see tons of limited play and not a lick of constructed play. Next, we have Long Road Home. 1 and a white, instant. Exile target creature. At the beginning of the next end step, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control with a +1/+1 counter on it. So, not a terribly exciting limited card. Certainly not a constructed card. This does deal with tokens, which is nice. So you can permanently deal with a token. And it protects your creatures from removal spell, and it can temporarily protect you from a creature for 1 turn. But all in all, probably not that great. Not going to see a lot of limited or constructed play. Take inventory. 1 and a blue, sorcery, draw a card, then draw cards equal to the number of cards named Take Inventory in your graveyard. Cool card. I don't think it's that great. Paying 2 mana to draw 1 card's not that great, but once again, if you end up with like 5 of these in your deck, 2 mana to draw 2 is fantastic, and 2 mana to draw 3 is insane. So, yes, if you end up with 4 or 5 take inventories, I definitely think this could be a cool limited card. Constructed, not so much. Dawn Griff, 2 and a white for a 2/2 flying hippogriff creature. Nothing fancy. This is usually the staple of blue-white flyers builds, though, right? Actually, they're more likely to run 2 mana 2/2 flyers, or 2 mana 2/1 flyers more likely. So this one's a little bit underwhelming, but evasiveness and limited is always good. Once again, no constructed play for that card. Absolutely not. Okay, next we have Cryptolith Fragment. I really like the art on the other side of this card, or the other card. Cryptolith Fragment, 3 mana, artifact, uncommon. It enters battlefield tapped. It taps and you can add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Each player loses 1 life, which is a cool take on the lose life. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if each player has 10 or less life, you transform it into Cryptolith Fragment, which is a 1/4 Eldrazi reflection creature with flying and death touch, and whenever it attacks, each opponent loses 4 life. Very strong card. 1/4 flying death touch is a great ability mashup, and it basically hits your opponent for 4. So I really like this card a lot. Will it see limited play? Yes, definitely. Will it see constructed play? I think it actually could, believe it or not. I think this card could see constructed play. I know it seems crazy, but it is a ramp effect for any color, and it has each player lose 1 life. So maybe there's some ramp decks. That's kind of counter to what ramp decks want to do, though. Ramp decks typically don't want to make each player lose 1 life. They're more likely to make each player want to gain 1 life because ramp decks get fantastic in the mid to late game. Aggro decks are good in the early game. So having said that, now that I've said that, rather, probably not going to see constructed play, but still a cool card, and certainly going to see limited play. I like that card a lot. And I believe that's it for spoilers. All right, so all at 40 minutes, perfect timing. Hope you enjoyed this spoiler read through. I don't want to commit to doing another one of these with the full set. They take so many hours to do with the full set, but I wanted to just sort of go through with you. So far, I'm pretty impressed with every single card I've seen. In fact, the only like unplayable one I remember is the Influence of Em Urkel card. So other than that, everything seems fine and dandy. So seems like a really fun set already, just from the few cards we've seen. Like I said, my only complaint is these sort of rares and mythics that meld together. You're never really going to get the payoff on those. But on the commons, expect to see the payoffs on those. So very fun. Hope you enjoyed this little spoiler read through. Feel free to have any comments. I'll try and respond to all of them. Thanks a lot, folks. We'll see you later.